Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to Knicks and Bruises. Yeah, your blackest time. I got the Queen in the building. I got Uncle Fulio in the building as well. Thank you guys for joining. How y'all doing?
Pretty good. Looking forward to the season.
Pretty
It is
good.
upon us.
Pretty good. It's that time of year, starting to get cold and chilly a little bit at night. So gotta stay
Uh,
bundled up out there.
yeah, hopefully, the Knicks wins will keep us warm and cozy. You know, it definitely makes a difference for me personally. A win and a loss, I try not to let it affect me, but I've come to the conclusion that it definitely affects my sleep, how I feel that night. Sometimes it lingers into the next day. So, um, today I was gonna just talk about some expectations. You know what I mean? We're gonna do a couple of predictions, just to, something that we could kind of reference. Come back maybe 10, 20 games in and pull it back up and see where our thoughts were, coming into the season, and then where they are. Have they changed after seeing about 20 games or so? So yeah, I mean, we could start with win totals. We talked about that in numerous shows, and sometimes it changed from before preseason to preseason. um So yeah, let's start with that, win totals. I think I don't remember what I said earlier. I think I said 43. Um, and I think I'm still about at 43. And yeah, I mean, not much has changed as far as what I've seen from preseason. It hasn't made me super encouraged, but it definitely hasn't disappointed at all. Um, a lot of you guys talked about the strength of the rest of the Eastern Conference, and kind of contribute that to where you thought the Knicks will fall. Um, but I always said, yes, the league got better, the East got better, but those teams still have to figure it out too. You know what I mean? A lot of these teams have new additions, new key additions, so it's not edged in stone that that they're gonna be better than us or better than they were last year. And then even teams like, or a team like the Celtics, who made it to the finals, but prior to RJ's buzzer beater, they was a disappointing team in the East at that particular point in time. They just happened to turn it on, very similar to what we did 2 years ago, where we kind of turned it on at the end of the season. So I say all that to say anything can happen. Right now, I'm a tamper my expectations, and I don't think that's a crazy stretch to say we go from 37 to 43. That's just 6 games. So yeah, that's where I'm at. 43. Josh, what you got?
I want the Queen to go first. Let the Queen go, and then I'll go last. I'll go last if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, this is so I think when we did the schedule breakdown, I think I had us at 40 doing the schedule breakdown. I will say that because this team, our success is going to be built on chemistry, I can see a path where we're 45, 46, 47 when if everything falls together. But I can also see a path where we don't even make the play in. So I could see both. If you're asking me, to just kind of put my flag in the sand, so to speak, I'm gonna put it in at 41, 40, 42 wins. And this is what I will say. I, there's a difference between everything has to go right and if some things don't go right. Right. So like, yeah, Philly, if Embiid gets hurt, obviously, right? But that's a big difference between having established teams and something would have to go wrong for them to fall, than having a team that you're not quite sure of and things have to go right. So it's a bit of a difference for me. And the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Josh is there's a difference between not having that guy and having that guy. And I like the depth of the Knicks, but I would prefer to be a top heavy team with a little less depth than to be as deep as we are and not have that guy, because those guys make your team look better than it is, make the coach look better than they are a lot of times, cover up a lot of mistakes, get you out of jams. And we don't have that. So I think that's going to bite us as well. But I can see both overachieving and underachieving, but I'm going to say 41-42.
And I'm just gonna say we don't have that, or we don't know if we have that. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
I'll just say this. And people are going to call me the pessimistic one and everything like that. I think the Knicks are going to finish under 500. Right? I think they're going to finish under 500. Now, how far under 500? That's all yet to be seen, right? But I think too often as Knicks fans, we look at the regular season and we judge that as our measure of success, so to speak. Because I get it, we haven't been in the playoffs in a long time, or a few times in the past 20 years, what have you, right? I think ultimately the team's success is going to be judged on, one, if they get to the playoffs, and two, how they perform when they get to the playoffs in that first round or whatever the case may be. Because, the Knicks can win, let's say 39, 40, 41, 42 games. To me, that's all the same, right? 2 games are going to be under 500. One is going to be at 500, and 2 of them are going to be above 500. To me, that's all the same thing, right? Puts them in playing territory. Are they going to be able to win those playing games to get to the first round of the playoffs? And then when they get to the first round of the playoffs, how are they going to perform, right? So I know when people hear, under 500, you're being so negative about the team. I just think that they can still make the play-in and make the playoffs being under 500, right? I judge success by how they perform in the playoffs. It's going to be based on the matchup, but as long as we don't get swept or anything like that, we actually put up a good fight compared to what we did 2 years ago against Atlanta, where we didn't put up a good fight at all, right? I think that's how we can really be able to judge success for this team, not just about regular season. Too often we get caught up in that, because you could be a number 2 seed, win 50-something games, get knocked out in the first round, and then you have a playing team that, made the 7th or 8th seed, right? But they actually get to the second round. Which team is more successful, right? The team that actually advanced in the playoffs, right? Or performed better in the playoffs. So that's how I'm judging the success of this team. And I think all of that's possible. I think the Knicks can win the play-in matchup and get to the first round and perform well. I think that's definitely possible. But I'm not too caught up on the win total.
I will say this, Josh. I'd rather have a really good team that, for whatever reason, stinks it up in the playoffs, and they get bounced prematurely, and you have to make some corrections, than to have a not so great team like Atlanta whiz all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And so you can say for that season, Atlanta was more successful than Philly, but Philly is the better built team. And obviously there's some things that they need to get together in order to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So there's some give and take there. The bottom line is you have to build a roster that's good enough. They may or may not make it depending on the matchups. But you can have this team right here can go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they could have just got on a good roll and not necessarily be a great team.
Well, go ahead, Tony.
Real quick. I mean, I think I'm fine with either one, like either road, because it's never a finished product. You know what I mean? It's always room for improvement. But I just wanted to add, like, you could be the best team in the league and have one bad matchup. That you know what I mean? This particular team has your number, but record wise and maybe against the rest of the league, you dominated. You know what I mean? But just because you get this one matchup, it's your Achilles heel, and that might happen in the first round. So you may be number 1 seed playing a playing team that made it to the 8th seed, and then they just happen to be built to beat you, or you, they may just match up in their favor when they play you. So there's always that. And then if that was the case, not saying we're going to be the number one seed or whatever the case, but if that was to happen, even that, I think over time, maybe not immediately, but I would be savvy enough to understand that, all right, we have a great team here. We just had a bad matchup in this first round or whatever case it may be. What do you want to say, Josh?
Well, describe what do you mean when you say bad matchup? Because to me, I don't think the Knicks were competitive in that series 2 years ago against Atlanta at all. Right? When you get gentlemen swept, you lose in 5 games. To me, that shows that you weren't competitive. I think three of those games we lost by more than 15, 20 points. Right? So I think there needs to be some context in that when you talk about these first round series and the matchup, so to speak. Right? Competitive to me means that in every game, you take it to 6, 7 games. To me, that's competitive. Losing in 5 and not being competitive in 3 out of the 5 of those games, to me, that's not competitive, right? And Queen, I disagree with you. I think success in the playoffs matter. Like you talk about these teams like Denver, like Utah, right? They were getting to the playoffs, right? But I think what started to take them to the next level, and the fact that they had that guy, like the Donovan Mitchell and the Jamal Murray and Jokic, they started to advance in the playoffs a little bit more, right? They weren't the best team in the West, right? But they were like probably 5th, 6th seed, and they were able to advance in the playoffs by winning some of those matchups, right? Dallas, look at Dallas last year. They weren't the best team in the Western Conference by any stretch, right? But they took out the Suns. They took out the Suns in 7 games, right? The Suns didn't show up in that 7th game, so I think it does matter, and I would rather.
It doesn't matter. You're missing the point.
No, you're saying you would rather have. You say you would rather have a team that be successful in the regular season and don't perform in the playoffs. I disagree with that.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't just judge say a team was successful, more successful than another. So, for example, you can win in the playoffs. Like Atlanta went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. That might have been a successful season for them, but they were not a better built team than Philly. So the point I'm trying to make is it's not just winning in the playoffs. You got to have a team built for the long haul. You understand? So if the Knicks were to get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, I would be happy, but I wouldn't be. That to me, that's fool's gold, because I know maybe we got on a run and got there, but this team needs work. We might have beat Philly, 9 times out of 10, Philly is going to beat us. You understand what I'm saying? So the only thing I was trying to say is how your roster is built as well. It's not just winning in the playoffs. Atlanta won in the playoffs, went all the way to the Eastern Conference Final. That was a successful season for them, but they're not championship contenders. So yes, winning in the playoffs does matter, but you also got to look at your team and be like, realistically, is this an Eastern Conference? Is this a contending team, or did we just get hot?
Well, Queen, you say it all the time that teams don't stay put, right? Teams are always going to look for talent, but your assessment of the team will be way different if the Knicks made the Eastern Conference Finals compared to if they lose in the first round or they don't make the playoffs at all. Like every team is going to be looking to add, but how much do you add, right? Depending on where you finish. Right. So I agree with you. I think, if the Knicks get to the Eastern Conference Final, it is kind of fool's gold. Right. But I will feel much more confident as a fan and in the organization and in some of the players that we currently have. And I guess we'll talk about, Tony, what it would take for the Knicks to even reach those heights. Right. Maybe RJ or Mitch or whatever. I would feel much more comfortable about some of the players that we already have and what we would need to add if we get to the Eastern Conference Finals compared to if we don't make the playoffs at all.
Look what happened with Atlanta, though. They felt like they was there. They didn't hardly make any changes, and then they
were capped out. They were capped out, though.
No, but I mean, they theoretically could have made changes. There's things they could have done, and that's where it is. Like, I mean, you could say Atlanta, you could say us as well as the 4th seed, which going back then, this is why I was kind of like, I think it was. I guess you could call it fool's gold, because I knew the expectation coming off of being the 4th seed moving forward was going to be higher than the level of the actual team. You know what I mean? We overachieved. And that was one of the problems that, I had at the time, because I'm like, yeah, we made 4th seed, but by half game and a loss could have put us back 2 spots. So it was a big difference in where we ended up and where we actually were theoretically, as a team. But same theory with Atlanta, they got that far and the organization had a decision to make. Do we run it back based off of where we ended up and what we did last year? And I forgot who it was, but he came out and said, that was my mistake. You know what I mean? I stayed put when I probably should have made some moves to make us better rather than banking off of the success of the previous year. But that's organizational. You know what I mean? As fans, I mean, we can't do nothing about it either way. We might like the team that made it to the Eastern Conference, and then they make a move, and as a fan, we're like, "Yo, what do you do?" You know what I mean? Like, why would you do
I don't
that?
think there's any way to know. Bottom
Yeah,
line,
yeah.
I don't think there's any way to know with certainty whether to run a team back and give them an opportunity, or whether to make changes. But in terms of us overachieving, that's the fans. The front office, though, has to make that assessment
Hmm.
of the fourth seed and decide what direction they want to go in.
Agree,
and
agree.
and they decide to basically stay put
Run it
and
back.
not do
Yeah,
anything. Run it back, add a couple of pieces here and there to
we,
Kemba
we, we did
and
this.
Fournier.
We
Yep.
kind of did this the same thing in a sense as Atlanta. So
But but I
you
but I, but Tony, real quick, I think it's really important to highlight the fact that the Knicks are still, from a cap perspective, they don't spend a lot of money. They have a lot of room for improvement. So even if they do overachieve, there's a lot of room on this roster to improve and bring in other pieces based on the salary cap situation. Atlanta paid all of their guys. They paid Trae Young. They paid Herter, who they just traded, John Collins, Capella. They paid all of those guys, and they were basically capped out. So they had a lot of tough decisions to make. I know what they wanted to do, but it was much more difficult for them to make moves compared to the Knicks if the Knicks are going to go to the Eastern Conference
I
Finals or
mean, I think that's
whatever.
subject. I think that's subjective as well because they just made a move, right? They
The
just
same capped out team.
you know what I mean? They just
But
did
two
something.
years later, but two
I
years
mean,
later,
I
that's what I'm
mean,
saying.
it's still subjective. And then last point I wanted to go back on, just to give you a better understanding of at least how I saw things 2 years ago. I wanted the Miami matchup. You guys, you're crazy, Tony. Miami's a better team. I just like the way we matched up with them. I didn't want the Hawks matchup. I felt like it was a bad matchup for us. This is not saying we would have beat the Heat or not, but the way I looked at it, it would have been a more competitive series because of the matchups. So sometimes you can match up against a team and it just not be a good match. You could be a better team overall, record wise. You know what I mean, league wise. You may just not match up well against certain teams. They may be more athletic, or run a different scheme that just you just haven't figured out. It happens every year, all the time. That's all I was saying. So matchups mean things. You know what I mean? And,
Absolutely.
and I felt like Atlanta at the time was a bad matchup. I didn't think we would be beat the way we got beat, but I definitely thought it was going to be a tough win if we even pulled it out. Um, let's jump into some players, right? And shout out to the chat. I do want to say anybody who comes in later, type it in the comments, like what you think our record is. This way, I have a record of it, and we could refer to this, in 20 games or so, and see if we were on par. We still feel the same way and things like that. Um, before we get to, oh no, let's get into individuals. I guess we'll start with the starting lineup. Expectations on Brunson. I early in the year definitely said, excuse me one second. I definitely said 20 points per game. I don't think he reaches 20 points per game.
Who's this?
Brunson. I think he's gonna be about 18 a game, not far off from 20. But I think it'll be about 18 per game. I think it'll be like five and a half assists. Um, I'll get into awards later. 3 rebounds. I think he's 33 minutes. I think his minutes will not really be, the typical Tibbs 38, 36 minutes, or at least the perception. So I'm gonna say 33 minutes. I think that point guard duty is going to be shared. Whether it's Rose getting the bulk of what's left or even him splitting minutes with another point guard. But yeah, 18 and 5 and 3. What do you think? Let's start with Queen again.
Yeah, that I mean, I'm not. I won't argue with that. Yeah, I mean,
Josh?
Tony, I just got to call you out because a couple days ago you called him a dominant half court player. So to go with those numbers, seems like a step back, don't you think? But I think that's about right for Jalen Brunson. I think he definitely can hit those stats. But the most important thing for Jalen Brunson is not the stats. We all know what he brings to the table as far as keeping the team together offensively on the floor, making the correct decisions, not turning the basketball over. And the only stat I guess you could say does matter is efficiency from the field, right? But all that other stuff, points per game, assists per game, I'm not really worried about that too much. But I think what you said, I think that's definitely possible for him.
And just to push back, you can be a dominant half court player, full court player, whatever. You can be dominant and average 18 and 5.
Oh boy, Tony.
You disagree?
Yes, I disagree. When you say dominant half court player, Tony, dominant. Come on, that's different. It's not Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is a dominant half court player. That's why Dallas plays with a slow pace. He's the focal point of their offense. Jalen Brunson is not that, right? He's a really good player. Don't get me wrong, but you said he was dominant.
Has he needed to be?
No.
When he's needed to be, was he?
No.
Okay. I guess you didn't.
It's different choice of words, Tony. I mean,
I guess you
dominant.
You didn't see the first round series against Utah because that's when he needed to be.
Okay.
Welcome, the Podfather Sim. Salute, brother. Oh, I think you muted.
What's going on?
Oh, there you go. Oh, not much, man. Not much. We just talking about expectations for the season.
Oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that.
You good. Expectations on the season. I have us at 43 wins. Josh has us below 500. Queen had us. She had a range.
41,
right?
42.
41, 42. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm somewhere around. I mean, I'm at least 500. Thinking probably, 43 wins, 43 to 45 wins, and somewhere around there.
No doubt.
Something like that.
And then we just got into Jalen Brunson's expectations. I think we kind of all agree around 18 and 5, 18, 5 and 3. I did say 33 minutes per game. And I will say this, if his minutes are above 33 minutes, I actually think the production will go up. So I'm prefacing that off of 33 minutes, but I think that point guard duty is going to get shared between rows. I think Quickly's going to see some of it. That's been the trend as far as the backup minutes. So I think that'll continue. What's your thoughts on Brunson's numbers coming in?
I mean, I'd probably agree somewhere around 18 and 5, something like that. I think he might get more than 33 minutes a game, though. I think
35.
I think Tom Thibodeau was gonna use this dude. Serious, I think. I mean, just based on what I seen in the preseason, and he had him running some with the second unit a little bit. When they started coming in, even 1, 2, 3 minutes, I feel like when he feels like things are getting out of hand, Brunson is the first one coming off the bench if he's not already, if he's not in the game. You know what I mean? So I think he's going to get more than 33 minutes a game. I think he's probably going to be 35, 36, 37. I think he's going to be somewhere around there.
Well, just to clarify, if his minutes are up, then I'm gonna push that back to to 20 points because I think if he's getting 35 minutes, I think 20 points is achievable for him because
Mhm.
we haven't seen him play that many minutes in the preseason, right? And he was around. I think he was around what 16 or 18 points anyway in the preseason. So
So, yeah, somewhere around there, something like that.
so I think another 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. I think he gets another 3 to 5 points, um, easy. The hardest guy for me to give a prediction coming into was is Evan Fournier, to be honest. Even expectations for him are it's hard for me to judge. I had a lot of expectations last year for him coming in. I do think he hasn't been utilized to his full potential. That's part of the sacrifice that Tibbs is always talking about. Um, and we kind of used him as a 3-point specialist. I think that is going to continue to be his role here. Um, I I wish there was going to be some expansion in his role and him being able to do everything that he's capable of doing on the floor. I think we'll see it at times against certain teams, a la his Celtics performances. Um, but I don't think it'll be a continued thing that we utilize game in and game out. I'm putting his point total at 12. Um, I'll even say 13 because I think he's gonna make 3 to 4 threes per game. I think his makes are gonna be pretty high. I think he's gonna shoot probably 8 threes a game. Um,
Wow.
but other than the 3-point shooting, it's hard for me to judge what his production is. So I'm saying if he's making 4 threes, that's 12 points right there, maybe a free throw. So I'll go 13 points a game on Fournier. I hope it's more though. I hope it's more.
I don't know if it's gonna be. Go ahead, Sim.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I don't know if it's gonna be. I just don't know where the attempts are gonna come from him. For him to average more than 13 or 14 points per game. But I think that's around his career average anyway, right? 13 to 14 points per game. That's what he did last year. So yeah, I see Fournier being around the same.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree. I agree with that. I think Fournier gets off to a better start than he did last year, though. I think he comes out the gate on fire. And besides the Boston game, we all know what he did to start the season last year. But I think outside of that, he started off really slow. I expect him to come in and knock some shots down early. I think the addition of Brunson is going to help that. Um, Hopefully, the Knicks can keep their same spacing from the preseason. I think that's definitely gonna help them out and definitely help Evan Fournier make more shots. But I just think he'll start off a little bit better and finish off around the same 13 points per game, 14 points per game, something like that. And hopefully he can get his keep his shooting average the same as it was last year, 38% I think it was from the three. Keep that the same.
No doubt. And Sim, I don't know if you caught it, but we're gonna revisit this show in about 20 games and just kind of see where our perspectives may have changed or stayed the same or tampered or lowered. So
all right,
just keep that in mind. This is a reference show. um,
all right.
and I think I'm gonna kind of do that for the whole year and kind of see where we were in the beginning, the halfway point or whatever, and at the end. Oh, next guy up, Star J Barrett. I think Star J Barrett becomes an all-star this year. I think he leads the team in scoring. I think he's gonna average 23. And I mean, I'll give him 4 and 4. I hope it's more than 4 rebounds, but I'll give him 4 and 4. But the great thing I think that's gonna change and what's gonna enable him to average 20 plus points this year and become an all-star this year is his efficiency, which I believe is gonna skyrocket. And I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration, but it's gonna improve a lot. And I think this is the year he becomes an all-star. He hits 40% from three, and I'm gonna give him 46% from the field.
Mm.
And yeah, I think this is the year that RJ becomes an all-star. So yeah, reference. Y'all
I
can
think
bring it up and say, Tony, you said.
I
But
think
I'm
I
saying
think
that.
I think in order for him to make an all-star team, everything you said about those efficiency numbers, he definitely has to hit those numbers. He'll hit those wickets, I think, with the points per game. And I think the Knicks have to be winning, right? They have to have a winning record in order for him to reach that. I think worst case scenario, based on your scenario, Tony, I think the Knicks would have to be winning, have to be in like kind of that play-in range, like midway through the season or whatever. I think the All-Star game is way later this year than it is typically. So I think 60 games would have passed by before the All-Star game or something like that. I got to go back and check. But I think if our thing, he can be reserve, All-Star reserve. Maybe someone gets hurt or not going to play the All-Star game, and he can get in there that way. I think that's possible. I don't know though. I have them under 500, so I don't know.
I think for him to make the All-Star team, the Knicks got to be 6 seed. Like when you think about how many forwards in this stacked Eastern Conference. So first thing I say is you can have an all-star season and not get chosen for the all-star team. Right. But to actually get chosen, the Knicks would have to be like in 6 seed. Think about this Eastern Conference team and how many forwards are there. Like the Knicks would have to be like 6 seed, and RJ Barrett is leading the charge. Like it's no doubt about who's leading. It can't be, it could be Brunson. No. For him to make it, the Knicks are like 6 seed, and he's leading the charge, and it's clear and it's evident on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah.
But as far as the numbers you're talking, I think he's going to have more rebounds. I would love to see 4 assists. Would love that. But I say 23 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, good efficiency, maybe 45%. Which is not that far off from 46%. And right now he's like 80-something% from the line. If that continues, that would be super great.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna need it in order to get it.
Yeah. See, I agree. I think it's gonna be hard, if you're just talking about actually being on the All-Star team, because there's so many forwards, small forwards in Eastern Conference, makes it really, really tough. Even to be voted in, I think makes it tough, because you still got guys like, even though people will say, well, he's in New York, the Knicks are playing well, the fans will vote him in, but you got KD, that if he's playing the whole season, he's going to be more popular than RJ, even outside of New York. You know what I mean? He's going to be more popular than RJ, so he's going to get crazy votes. Giannis will get crazy votes from that position. I mean, there's so many players that he'd have to jump over. But as long as he's putting up those numbers, and playing at an all-star level,
right?
That's the only thing, that's what I care about. You know what I mean? Because you can be all-star caliber and not get voted in simply because there's so many other players and it just wasn't your turn. You know what I mean? So, that's what I'm worried about. Does he put up those numbers and it impacts winning,
I'm fine with that too, because then I get to do my RJ snubbed again video. So
right. Right. But it's going to be difficult. The East is stacked with so many players, from point guard to center. Which now says, maybe the All-Star team, at least in the East, is not as. I guess if you make it, they would say you're the creme de la creme if you make it. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that your team isn't good or that you're not, at that level if you don't make the All-Star team, because there's so many players and they only accept so many,
Let me ask you guys this. Does RJ have a better shot at the All-Star if he's selected as a guard?
No. The league is guard heavy. The league is more guard heavy than it is front court heavy. And and I don't think they do East and West anymore. It's like, they draft the teams now, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
So
I think. Well, I think they vote East and West, and then they just have the two people they choose draft the teams.
The captains, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's even worse if he goes in as a guard. But
But
All right. Well,
but but
I'm sticking with my prediction.
but I say this. I say this though. I say this. If the Knicks are playing really really well, and he's having that kind of a season, every year there's players that can't play an All Star team. Then he could be one of those guys that gets selected because
the reserve.
reserve. You know what I mean? I take it. I'll take it. Shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was ecstatic when KP got selected as a reserve, right? So, yeah, I definitely take it.
Next guy up, Julius Randle. On his redemption tour, I guess. The road to redemption. 19, 10, and 4. I think I'm hoping. I know y'all gonna kill me, but I'm gonna say 33% from three. You know, 33. That's Uh, I think he goes back to shooting a good percentage from the field as well. I'm gonna give him 46% as well. But yeah, the numbers I'm going 19, 10, and 4. And we get good Randle, not bad Randle. I think he redeems himself.
I don't think he gets 19 points this year, Tony. And it's not because of anything he won't do or can't do. I just think he gets less touches. I think he gets less touches now. I think the addition of Brunson is going to take some touches away from him. I think RJ is going to kind of step into that role and kind of get the most touches on the team. And I think, Randle, I think he will shoot a better efficiency, but I don't think his point total gets up at 19. I'm looking more of like the like 16, 17 point range. He's still going to be a really good rebounder, 9, 10 rebounds, 8, 9, 10 rebounds, something like that. And I think he'll have a share of assists, but I don't think his point totals get up there because of the lack of touches.
I agree.
Yeah, I actually think that Randall is going to lead the team in assists again this year.
Mm.
I don't think it's going to be Jalen Brunson. I think it's going to be Randall. Just because he's still going to be the best draw. He's still going to be the best anchor on the team. He may not average as many points, but I still think he's going to be the best anchor. And he's the quickest and strongest that can go to the basket, which is going to make the defense draw. And as long as he's willing to continue to kick, I think he'll get those assists, especially if him and RJ start to find a rhythm together. Which, looking at the preseason, it looks like they are starting to find a little bit of a rhythm together. You know what I mean? And if they can do that, he'll get some assist off of RJ. He's going to get some assist off of Brunson from he goes to the basket and kicks it out to Brunson. Obviously he's got a 2-man game with Evan Fournier. So I think he could still lead the team with assists. You know what I mean? I see people saying 4 or 5. I think he might be around 6 assists per game this year, on par with what he was 2 years ago. But his point production, I do agree, might go down. Because he is getting less touches. And I don't even think it's just because of the less touches. I think it's because of his 3-point shooting. Right? Because he could get the number of touches he got in the preseason and still average 19. You know what I'm saying? But if you look at his 3-point shooting in the 3 season, he struggled to knock down those open threes. And I think he'll get some wide open looks from 3. You know what I mean? I also think part of the reason that his numbers will be down is he may struggle scoring in the beginning of the season, just finding his footing in the way the mix is with everyone. And then maybe later on in the season, you see him come on a little bit from the scoring standpoint. We'll see.
Well, I mean, I have a feeling he's gonna. I said 33 just because I ain't feel like getting killed, but I think his 3-point shot is gonna improve, and I say that because it needs to on the way it seems the offense is being ran. It's gonna be a staple. And we've seen him come out and work on it 2 years ago. So I think I think this year it's going to be easier shots. I think a lot of those shots he's not going to have to create them, and now it just becomes a rhythm thing. Finding it in that comfort spot. I don't know what corner it's gonna be, but he's gonna have
Yeah.
to find a comfort spot. You know what I mean? That he knows. All right, from here I'm comfortable, and I think he'll figure that out. I think it's less him creating those 3-point shots that we've seen. I don't think we'll see those as much. I think a lot of them are gonna be off the catch and shoot. Not saying that's his bread and butter, but I think that's the easiest three to kind of figure out.
How many
I
threes do
will.
you envision him shooting in the game per game? I'm sorry, Queen.
That's okay.
5.
Okay.
In,
See,
in the
I
pre-
think that goes down though. Go ahead.
no, no, no. I was just gonna, in the preseason, he's shooting worse than last season. He's shooting 27%. He's never, ever, ever been a good 3-point shooter, except for that one season. It's just not his bag. Can you turn it around in your 9th season or 8th season and now become a 35% 3-point shooter? I wouldn't put my money on it.
But it could be done. We've seen it done.
Anything is possible. Anything is possible, but I'm not putting my money on it. I think, and matter of fact, if you shooting 27, 30%, I don't want you jacking up 5 3-pointers
Exactly.
a game. It's to me, that's a turnover. So I think Julius got to do Julius things. Get in the post, get in the mid post, do whatever your bread and butter is. Get back to that, and I think that he will be very efficient. I think him jacking up those 3-pointers might be what's bringing down his overall
It is.
efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right. And that's like when you say jack up, that's one thing. I'm not talking about just jacking up shots. I'm talking about within the offense, because what they don't want him doing is turning down an open shot, because that stops the offense. You know what I'm saying? So I think the system is going to allow him to have open looks as opposed to him creating 3-point shots. Because if he's creating them, I agree 100%. I don't want him doing that, and I think it becomes more of a liability.
But even catch and shoot, Tone, even catch and shoot, you wide open for a reason sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
get you that if you could stall the offense by not taking the shots. I get that too. But he's gonna have to figure it out. Like
See,
when he's off, take a dribble in,
Yeah.
pull up for the mid range.
I think part of it is gonna have to be on Tibbs a little bit. Because with having Mitch out there on the floor, and I'm not saying to take him off the floor, but he doesn't shoot a 3. So in order to have that lane open, Randle has to be out on the perimeter in order for the lanes to be open for Brunson or
Yeah.
RJ or whoever to get inside. You know what I mean? So, it makes it hard for Randle to be able to post up inside. You know what I mean? So, now Tibbs got to figure out a way to make that happen. Even if you just have Mitch stand out there at the 3-point line. You know what I'm saying? His guy at least got to be kind of close to him. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think some of it though is for Tibbs to figure out, okay, how do we open that floor up so that Randle can get inside?
And this is
and post up.
these are the issues that I talk about when I mention spacing, right, or lack thereof. Randle needs to have the basketball at the top of the key or on the perimeter. He just needs to have the basketball, right? On catch and shoot threes for his career, Julius Randle shooting 30% from 3-point range, not just regular threes, catch and shoot, right? He is not, he just hasn't been able to knock down that shot, whether it be open or otherwise, right? So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. I agree with you, Sam. I wish the Knicks spacing was a little bit better. That Mitch and Randle dynamic, I'm still not comfortable with it yet. But I think there is ways for Randle to be effective inside the 3-point line. Robinson, I've seen it in the preseason. In the mid range, Randle knocking down some shots in the mid range, and also he just roll to the basket sometimes. Maybe not every play, but just sometimes use your strength and get up some good shots at the rim. But I agree with you. Tibbs got to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, but there were times last year when Randle wasn't hitting from 3 and he didn't take them. he decided to go and do something else. So, he'll have to do that again this year.
Right.
And if he's taking 15 shots in a game, I don't think 5 is a lot. 5 threes is a lot.
Well, he took 17 shots last game, and he shot 5 threes last game. Attempts.
Moving on. Money Mitch. My guy, he's looking good. I'm giving him that double off the back. I think he breaks that barrier of a goal for him. I think the rebounds go up to 12, and I think the points go up to 12. I think he's gonna jump 4 rebounds and 4 points per game. I think he's gonna get 2 blocks. I think he's gonna get a steal per game. What stat am I missing? I'll give him an assist per game too. But I think Mitch is gonna arrive this year, and he's looking real comfortable. I don't know if he gets defensive player of the year, nothing like that, but I think he's on the path to it. You know what I mean? As something that he could reach moving forward. And let's just hope he stays healthy. But I'm gonna give him 73 games.
Okay. I would love that. I mean, he
That'd be
did
great.
it. He did it last year, right? 70 games or 70 something games.
70. Yeah.
70 games. Be great if he could do it. I got a take for you, Tony, that you can bring back later on in the season. I'm gonna say that Mitch attempts his first 3 ever this season, and I think he's gonna make it.
Mm.
That don't mean I think he's gonna be a 3-point shooter. I just think he takes the attempt somehow, some way, and he makes it.
Wait, you saying he makes his first 3-point attempt?
Yes.
You know how much money?
I think he's gonna take at least one attempt. He's gonna take an attempt this year somehow, some way. Maybe the shot clock is running down. Maybe he's just open and he's like, "Freak it, I'm gonna shoot it," and he lets it go. But I think he's gonna knock it down too.
I'm with you. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
I think it's gonna happen this year.
I don't know if he's gonna make it, but I tell you what, you should look on these sports betting sites and see if that's a bet you could place.
I'll take that bet
because you can make a lot of money betting he's gonna make his first 3-point attempt of his career.
I'll say for Mitchell Robinson. So I don't think defensive player of the year. I mean, it's possible, right?
No, not this year. Not this year.
For this year specifically, I do see Mitchell Robinson potentially getting on one of the all defensive teams. I think that's definitely in the realm of possibility for him. But the thing that needs to improve the most in order for that to happen, he needs to take his defensive rebounds, at least get 2 or 3 more defensive rebounds per game. And I think Mitch is a shoe-in for one of those spots. Because I think he can average 3 blocks a game. I think he could get to 11, 12 rebounds a game, right? If 8 of those are defensive rebounds, I think there's a good chance Mitchell Robinson can be all defense, one of those 2 teams or whatever it is.
I think that's possible. Josh, do you think is it a good thing or a bad thing for the Knicks if he averaging 3 or 4 blocks a game?
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
I'm just asking because that means that people are getting in the paint. That may not always be a good thing. You know what I mean? I think in the year that the Knicks made that 4th seed a couple years ago, his blocks were down to like 1.5, but the defense was better. People weren't getting in the paint, so he didn't have to block as many shots. So I don't know. Hopefully it is a good thing, and he's erasing those shots, and people are scared to come in. But then I don't want people getting inside the lane either.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Maybe Tibbs can find a way to scheme it up to potentially allow some of that. I don't know.
He can get the blocks.
Just so he can get the block. I don't know. I don't know, Sim. That's a good point. I didn't really think about it like that way. But I think it's really important to the team defense by having someone down there that's a shot blocker, that's a rim protector, that can alter shots.
Right.
The Knicks aren't going to be able to stop everybody every single night, right? There's going to be, the fast guards. We might see one on Wednesday. John Morant,
and
get into the paint. You know what I'm saying?
just the threat with Mitchell Robinson down there. Two things: as your teammate, as the guard or the wing or whoever, you feel a lot more comfortable in your defensive assignment. You can go for a steal here and there. You could take a little bit of a risk, or even if you're not taking a risk and you get outplayed by your opponent, you feel comfortable knowing you have somebody as the last line of defense back there. And then on the flip side, as the opponent, you always weary. You know what I mean? So he may not even get the block, but he may just alter a shot, make some guy not even go into the paint knowing he's there. You know what I mean? Let me pull this back. Let me not even risk it. So I think all that affects the team and is an effect that he can have on this squad. Let's see. We're gonna move on. I'm only gonna cover Rose quickly, Obi, Hartenstein, and Grimes.
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
That's what
the whole thing.
There's other people on the team, but that's who we're gonna cover right now. We're gonna go through it quick because I know we got Queens Court coming up, and we're gonna start with Rose. Without like minute predictions or anything like that, I just kind of have some questions on, I'm sorry, point production. I just wanted to know what you guys think about his minutes. How do you think it's going to pan out? Do you think it's a steady throughout the season? Do you think it's kind of shortened starting the season and gradually increases as time goes on? Do you think it's only going to be something where it's based off of necessity, where you kind of need him to steady the second unit? Because I really do believe he's going to be in there with Quickly early on to kind of, keep him under wraps, but then Quickly is going to have his opportunity to kind of run that second unit for a stretch here and there. But I think that's going to be the steady dose throughout the season. And then his minutes increase based off of need, matchups, things of that nature. But I do think his minutes will be limited early on at the very least. What do you guys think about Rose and his minutes or his usage?
I don't want to go first.
I mean, listen, I think there was a prelude to that in the last game, in the sense that he basically played behind Brunson. And I think that's what it's going to be. Whatever minutes Brunson doesn't get, he's going to get. So if Brunson plays 34, he's going to get 14. If Brunson plays 36, he's going to get 12. I think Quickly will have an opportunity to, if he does have an opportunity to run the team, I don't think it's going to be from those minutes. We saw when he was in the game with Rose, he was basically handling playmaking responsibility. So I think Rose and Brunson are going to split minutes there. I think Quickly's minutes are going to come from Fournier. Grimes' minutes are going to come behind RJ, however they mix that up. And I'm okay with that. I think 12 to 14 minutes is about right for Rose. And I think that, ensures that if he does have the ball in his hand, we're going to be okay. I'm not really feeling it Quickly playing point guard, handling the ball at all. But I do notice even if he is handling it and Rose is in the game and not handling it, he seems to be a bit more steadier just having Rose in the game, whether he's handling the ball or not. So yeah, I don't really have any point total for Rose. I don't really think that's going to be his role on the team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Rose does split those minutes with Jalen Brunson, but I also think as we get later on in the season that and Rose is healthy and he's really in the groove of things and the games start to get real tight. I think maybe you start to see Rose not take Brunson's minutes, but maybe take some of IQ's minutes and play alongside Brunson,
Yeah.
something like that. You know what I mean? And maybe his minutes increase a little bit and go from 14 to 17 or something like that because he's maybe taking some of IQ's minutes because Tom Thibodeau is going to trust him to get the job done at those moments. You know what I'm saying? Especially if he's healthy and he's strong and he feels like he can trust his body. Tom Thibodeau feels like he can trust his body. I think then you see Rose maybe get a few more minutes as the season wears on.
I agree. I agree with how Rose will be used if he's healthy. If he's healthy, I agree that that's how pretty much he's going to be used. He's going to get the rest of the minutes that Brunson doesn't play, and I think ultimately as the season goes on, I think you're going to see Brunson and Rose out there together at the end of the games, right? Because of IQ's, tendency to be erratic at the end of the game, so to speak. But the question is health for me. Health for Derrick Rose. I am not confident. I'm not hanging my hat on Derrick Rose being healthy to even give us that little 12 minutes a game or whatever it is consistently. I'm just not based on the fact that he is older. He had the game where he was off. I don't think it was due to an injury, but doesn't play any pickup basketball. Only played 9 minutes in the preseason through 2 games, and he needs a rest day. To me, I just see a lot of those rest days coming, if not due to injury, just for the fact that Derrick Rose is who he is. Tremendous basketball player, but can't stay healthy, and I'm not dependent on him throughout the season.
Tough take.
Yeah, but I think he was ready to play. I think that was Tibbs' call. I don't think that, they felt like, oh, look at him, he needs rest, or he asked for rest. I think that was just Tibbs' call. I think Rose wanted to play.
But you don't see that being a pattern throughout the season
It might
where,
be
where the Knicks are more cautious for his health and for his
I,
durability than
the Knicks or Tibbs.
I
For
mean
me, for
when I
Tibbs,
say
no.
the Knicks, I mean
Tibbs,
Tibbs.
no. I think if he's ready, Tibbs gonna roll unless he had a come to Jesus moment over the offseason. If he's ready, he's gonna be there. Now maybe Tibbs has changed some things, over the summer. Maybe he will give him some rest. Um, but from what we've seen from Tibbs, if you're healthy, you're out there.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard him speak on his longevity and speak on his continued health issues as well as Rose speak on it himself. So to me that makes me feel like he has to make some kind of adjustment. He feels like he has to make some type of adjustment. I mean, he referenced last year, he referenced the year prior as how rested Rose was coming into his time with the Knicks and helping lead the team. So that's where my speculation comes that they're gonna monitor him. You know what I mean? They're gonna be safe to try to preserve him because they know how valuable he is. You know what I mean? They look at his absence last year and what it did to the team. I mean, we all recognize how different Quickly plays alongside Rose than how he plays without him as well. So I think he'll get. I mean, me personally, I just think he'll get the minutes with Quickly, but then he'll get that rest throughout the games as well. I don't think Tibbs. Now again, if it's close games, tight games down the stretch, that's different. But throughout the game, I think he gets his breaks. Comes in for a quick spell. And
Tony,
yes, sir.
yep, I have no doubt in my mind that the Knicks are going to do everything they can to try to preserve Derrick Rose every chance they get. I have no doubt about that. My concern is the fact that we're doing this, right, for someone that we need in that second unit. We all admit that we need to see him together with Quickly because Quickly by himself out there on the floor is very erratic, right? Prone to turnovers, doesn't necessarily take the best shots, right? And the fact that we need him, I just It just doesn't make me feel, doesn't give me that confidence in the whole situation. I think, we can try to keep Derrick Rose as healthy as we can, but when we really, really need him, will he be there? That's the question that I have. And I'm not sold on it yet.
And should we have signed a third string veteran point guard?
That's the other part.
Mm.
That's the other part.
Yeah, don't let the Deuce Hive go crazy.
Well, I mean, the Knicks are going to have a decision to make at the end of the season because there's a team option on his contract. He'll make $15 million next year. Looking at the way things went down with Taj, I feel like they probably will not pick up his contract for next year. You know what I mean? And right now, this process is maybe about grooming Deuce. You know what I mean? So that Deuce is the next guy to step up.
And that being
when
said,
Rose is gone.
That's what I was gonna ask. Does that open any type of 3 minutes here, 4 minutes here for Deuce? Or, let's say my theory is correct and it's not an even split of whatever Brunson doesn't get goes directly to Rose. Do you see quickly minding that point spot, or do you see Deuce coming in for 3 minutes here and there? Well, let me go with Sim first, because I just want to know, like, is when you say grooming, is it grooming from afar, or is it grooming with these opportunities?
See, I think Tibbs likes his rotation. He likes a tight rotation, and he said before he's not going to go more than 10 deep. It's hard to coach, and try to play 11, 12 players. It's difficult. You know what I'm saying? Even though you have extended minutes in the NBA with 48 minutes in the game, it's still difficult. You know what I mean, to play that many. So I think they know that Derrick Rose is going to take some rest days. I think they already have this in their mind. They know there's going to be days that he rests when he's not even injured, right? It's just a rest day for Derrick Rose. And then that's when Deuce is going to step in. And then you got Rose on the sideline being able to say, hey, look for this. Look out with that. Do this, do that. So, grooming them in that manner, I think. You know what I mean? Because he's going to get some minutes. He's going to get some minutes to play, and 3 minutes. I mean, how much can you really do? If you're getting those 3 minutes, how much can you really do? It may just make more sense for him to wait until Rose is not playing, and then you get all of those minutes. You know what I mean? So you can really come out there and play. Plus, you get some time in the G League, to be able to play. So you're really it really is a developmental program for him, I believe. And then next year, Rose is no longer there, or if he is still here, I don't think the Knicks will pick up his contract. I think they'll probably say, "Hey, we're not going to pick up your contract, but we can bring you back at the vet's minimum," or maybe they give him a little bit more than that. You know what I mean? Than the vet's minimum, but with the understanding also that Deuce is going to step up into this spot, and you're going to have to be the vet, the third string vet, coaching them along. And if and when we need you, then we need you.
My only pushback on that would be, unless they're using the money they're saving by not re-signing him, or by not picking up the option and re-signing him, I think they just go ahead and pick up the option, even if that's a fact, because it doesn't. It's almost like a reward. You know what I mean? Unless they're using that money for something else, you know what I mean? Why not just keep pick up the option, let them know it's a changing guards, I guess, pun intended. And then yeah, like, but you're being paid, you're being rewarded for your mentor role, or your continued help in development. Go ahead, Josh. I see you shaking your head, and then we're gonna breeze through the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not paying someone $15 million to be yeah, I'm not doing it. What I wanted to say in regards to Deuce McBride, I agree with Sam. I think Deuce will ultimately, get groomed to take some of those minutes. But when you see Deuce and Quickly out there on the floor together, I think Tibbs is going to use Quickly as an on-ball role. I know we don't like it, but I think that's just the way Tibbs sees Quickly out there with Deuce on the floor, because I don't think Deuce is more of an on-ball guy anyway. I think he's better suited off the ball, right? And I think Quickly is better on the ball when you talk relative to those two, right? So I think that's how that dynamic will be used when you talk about bringing Deuce out there on the floor. And yeah.
Well, doing what though? When you say Deuce being off the ball or being on the ball, because you can be on the ball. That doesn't mean you got to be the one that's breaking down the D or doing things. You could just be controlling the tempo, controlling, kind of, monitoring the rest of the team. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how I mean, the dynamic between Deuce and IQ right now is that IQ doesn't really have the same respect for Deuce as he does for Derrick Rose. So when IQ is out there, he feels like he's the leader of the team. If Derrick Rose is out there with IQ, then he kind of knows that Derrick Rose is the leader out there. So I think it has to do with, I think it just kind of has to do with that until, Deuce steps up and does a little bit more.
Well, I agree with you, Sam. I just don't think Deuce at this point is as dynamic as IQ with the basketball, right? People, we can say what we want about IQ, taking, terrible shots and stuff like that, but he still is much more dynamic to get to the hole, to be used off of the pick and roll, drive off the pick and roll, and set up his teammates better. And I think at this point, all we've seen from Deuce McBride really is the ability to knock down, catch and shoot three, right? If he's even doing that, right, offensively. But I think there is room to improve for Deuce. I think he definitely has room to improvement to get to that level. But just as of right now, I think that's why Quickly is primarily the person on the ball, along with what you said about respect on the floor and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I did want to jump in. Sorry, Steph. Tony, you were saying, about using that money elsewhere. I think they will use it elsewhere, as far as Derrick Rose, because Obi Toppin, there's a team option for Obi. There's a team option for Quickly. There's a team option for Grimes. There's a team option for Miles McBride. Right. So, and their team options, I mean, basically add up to about 15 million. Obi Toppin, I mean, Rose, his team option is just about 15.6 million. Obi Toppin is 6.8. Emmanuel Quickly is 4.1. That's like 11 million right there. Quentin Grimes is 1.3, and then Miles McBride is 1.8. I mean, that almost equals Rose's contract.
Good point.
In regards to McBride and IQ, I agree that he might be limited offensively, but sometimes all you need is for that point guard to just kind of control the tempo, control the pace, bring the ball down the court, get you into your sets.
Not turn it over.
Not turn the ball over. So in that sense, I think he will be able to do that. As regard to Quickly, I think Quickly has to mentally remind himself it's not natural yet. I'm the point guard today. Like, I'm playmaking today. That's my role is different today. But I think naturally he's just in his scoring mode. So just kind of having a McBride, bringing it down, initiating the offense, and that will allow Quickly to do what he does. And we don't have to, hopefully McBride is strong enough in himself that if he sees IQ taking bad shots game after game, possession after possession, that he would go somewhere else with the ball.
Right. Exactly.
I will say this though. Tibbs teaches letting the game dictate your what you do. And I've seen, as much as I cringe over the bad shots that Quickly takes, I think he's taken to that philosophy. I don't think he has to come in and say I'm the point guard or I'm facilitating tonight. I think all he really has to do is let the game will tell you if you need to pass.
He's
shoot,
not listening.
Or
That's the problem. That's what I mean.
But he's improved in that. That's what I'm saying. So I think if he continues to improve, who knows?
Right. But that's what I mean. Because when you come in, first of all, I don't think he's listening to what the offense is telling him. He's dialing up his shot too much. And that's not the 3-point at this point in his development. It's driving into the lane at this point. So he's not what is the game telling you? You drove in 2 times. Nothing has happened. What does your team need right now?
Right.
And I
Good
just
point.
don't think that's part of his thought process.
Yeah. See, I agree. I don't think it is either. You know what I mean? Because in the preseason, I think after the first game, I said I'm watching for the next game to see if he takes 3 shots in a row. You know what I mean? And yep, 3 shots in a row. Bam, bam, bam. You know
That's
what
a
I'm
great
saying?
point.
And it's like, if you're hot, okay, you take 3 shots in a row. But for the most, if you're one of the guys in the second game, Derrick Rose wasn't there, right? If you're gonna be the primary guard on the floor, you know what I'm saying? You gotta have some kind of vision and some kind of idea what other people on your team needs. Now, he's really good at looking up the floor to find Obi, you know what I'm saying, and making that home run pass to Obi. But there's got to be more than that. You know, once he gets up the court, you know what I'm saying, he's dribbling, getting comfortable, trying to figure out what am I gonna do to either get my shot first, and then if I can't get my shot, I'll kick it to somebody else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you know that's if he's going to be your primary ball handler, that has to change. Now, if he's going to play off the ball and you have somebody else that can control it, let him do what he does. Because then that person can decide, nope, you're not getting the ball on this possession. We're doing something else.
Right. Or
That's
you
it.
have 3 players, real quick, Tony, or you have 3 players, your point guard, your 2 wings, who are very good at reading
Yeah.
what the defense is. Then it doesn't matter. But we just don't in that second unit.
Yeah.
That's a great point by you guys too, because I definitely was when I said he's gotten better. I wasn't. I was really talking about just taking those bad threes, those chuck. He still does it here and there, but it's not like before. But when you're talking about just looking for his own shot, he's definitely doing that first and foremost. I'm gonna let you go, Queen,
Yeah.
first,
There you go. All
and
right.
well, real quick, I'm gonna let you go first. If you want to just run through
Oh, I thought you
quickly,
meant like releasing me from my duties first. All right, go ahead. What you gonna
quick,
say?
quickly, Grimes, Hartenstein, Obi.
Quick-
Excuse me.
Oh,
Just
quickly, like okay. I was
yeah,
about to say we talked about quickly already. Obi,
well,
Grimes, Hartenstein.
yes, one prediction for each. It could be a
In
point.
terms
It
of
could be
points,
anything you want. It could
I,
be
I,
whatever
I
you want, but one prediction for each.
I think Obi role will stay the same as last season. I think he get similar minutes to last season, similar role to last season until he can get to the point where he can consistently hit that 3-point shot. Other than that one game when he was 4 for 7, he's missed every other 3-pointer that
Mm.
he's taken. And if you want to be part of that half court offense, you got to be able to hit the 3. So I don't see his role changing much. And sure enough, he got 17 minutes last game. Grimes, I think Grimes is going to be the starter by the end of the season, and I think he's going to close games. And I think we're going to see a little more versatility in his game in terms of him putting the ball on the floor when they close out. I saw it that one game, and it was quick, and before you know it, he was at the rim. So I think we're going to see a little more versatility from him. Hartenstein, I'm telling y'all right now, y'all going to be very surprised, very pleased with this guy. I think the games in which Rose doesn't play, the offense is going to be run through Hartenstein.
I agree
Because you
100%.
get good shots and you get Hartenstein. Is it Steve? You said? I think it's Stein.
Same
Whatever.
thing.
Yeah, you're going to get
Steve
good
Stein.
shots.
I heart.
Yeah, I heart, right? You're going to get good shots with him facilitating the offense. He did it one game in the second quarter. It was beautiful.
Yes.
So yeah. Yeah, that's what I got to say about those 3.
I appreciate you, Queen.
All
I'll
right, see y'all on the other
see you in a
side.
few.
All right.
Man, she stole my thunder because I was gonna say
And she stole
Hartenstein.
everybody's thunder with that one.
I mean, we could lead right off for Hartenstein, I guess. I mean, Josh, you said you agree. I agree as well. I'm gonna go ahead and say he's gonna lead us in assists off the bench, not the team, but the bench assists. You know what I mean? The and I don't know if this stat is actually kept, but I think he's gonna be top of the league in bench assists. I agree 100%. By the end of the year, I think the second unit's offense gets ran through him, not necessarily put him as the big scoring threat, but I think we'll see a very similar role that we saw with Noah Joakim back in the Chicago days.
I do want to add, and Queen said something before she hopped off. She said that it looked better, it looked beautiful, right? But if you look statistically, the bench's production hasn't been the same as it was last season, right?
As
But it looked beautiful, right? Having Hartenstein there facilitating the offense, I think much needed. I love to have Hartenstein in that role. I said it when we first acquired him and Obi together, running the backdoor plays, the off-ball plays. I think it's going to be tremendous for that second unit. And I think we're going to depend on that a lot more, particularly if we don't have Rose there, knock on wood, right? So I agree with Queen. I think it's a beautiful brand of basketball to watch, and let's see how the Knicks utilize it.
I also think part of that though is Rose's limited minutes throughout, from what we've seen so far. So I think he's going to balance out that second unit and their production, where we're talking about what he played, like 7 minutes one game, whatever it was. It wasn't he didn't play a lot. We saw a lot of Deuce. We saw a lot of IQ. We saw a lot of that. The guys kind of getting their shots, their opportunity. So I think Rose is going to stabilize that second unit. But I agree. I was gonna kind of do a show just on how we talked about the depth of the second unit and how good they are, but we really haven't seen the full capacity of that. Like collectively, we haven't seen them put it together so far this year. So I think that's going to be really important. The first unit kind of looked good together for the most part, even though they had some dry stretches. But the second unit, they might have had one good uh, quarter or one good half out the whole preseason, in my opinion, and they're still kind of learning each other. Individually, people had great moments. You know what I mean? Hartenstein with the drop off. I mean, shown that all 4 games. The backdoor cut passes and things of that nature. Obi had the breakout performance, but like Queen said, other than that, he hasn't been hitting the three. He has shown a lot more leaking out and doing it timely. Like he hasn't been shown out of position because he's leaking or trying to get a fast break point and we don't get that rebound. So he seems to be timing when he should leak out and when he should stay up because we might not have got that board. I think he missed one play doing that. But overall, I think the biggest growth we're gonna see is in that second unit as time goes on. I think this first unit, they kind of got it together. And not saying they're not going to improve because I think they're going to improve too, but I think they're not going to be a liability from the jump.
I think if our starters are outplaying our bench unit, that second unit, I'm perfectly fine with that. Last season, it was the opposite, right? And the bench players didn't play, not nearly enough, as some people would like to say, right? But this year, if the starters are playing well, they're firing at all cylinders, we don't need to have a bench unit to be, probably the best in the NBA. Of course, everything helps, right? But I think we're not going to depend on our bench unit to win us games like we did last season because our starters are playing well together. So I think that's all right.
No doubt, no doubt. Appreciate you guys for joining me. We gotta jump over in the Queen's Court, so I'll see you guys there. As always, shout out to the chat. Appreciate you. There's no show without you guys, and I'm sure I will see you all on the MVK network in the Queen's Court. Josh, any last words?
Go Knicks! Can't wait to see y'all on Friday.
Wednesday. But Friday, yeah, we gonna.
I mean, in person.
We gonna meet you on Friday, no doubt, no doubt. Sim.
Yeah, only thing I'll say is everything can look pretty, but you gotta have results. Gotta have results. You can have the best car on the block, but if it don't run, it's sitting in your garage, don't matter. You know what I'm saying? And your little beater might be the one that's taking you back and forth every place, every day. I mean, so it can look pretty, but you gotta have the results. think the
Yeah.
second unit's gonna get it together though. I still think they're gonna be one of the most dynamic second units in the league.
No, I agree too. I think why we haven't seen it is because of Rose's limited minutes. But yeah, shout out to the chat. Yo, Black is time. We out.